Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to some British Grand Prix qualifying waffle and a bit of a look ahead to tomorrow's race. We're going to digest and discuss, digest a great word, what just happened in qualifying and just have a few words about what we might see tomorrow. I can see a lot of love in the chat for McLaren, understandably. Who was expecting that? Nobody was expecting that. What an unbelievable performance from Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Fantastic, but what a session. What is it with Formula One qualifying? Say what you want about racing on a Sunday. Qualifying just doesn't get any better in Formula One. It's been fantastic pretty much every weekend for as long as I can remember. Yes, all right, fine. Max Verstappen on pole again, but not a great surprise. We kind of knew that was going to happen. But so close in behind that. Fantastic stuff. Really enjoyed it. So we'll get into all of that in just a moment. These streams, we're going to try and see if we can make these a bit like we do with the race reaction streams, a regular feature on the channel. Obviously, that all comes down to you guys. If you enjoy them and the numbers are half decent, then I'll keep doing them. If you don't enjoy them, the numbers are terrible, then we'll come up with something else. But it has been a long time since I did something post-qualifying. So it's nice to sit here on a Saturday actually and just be nice and chill with you all. Lots of questions in chat as well, please. I'll talk to you all throughout and I'll come to you because I'm going to do these solo. So it's a bit of a community feel to these streams. Let's put it that way. And I'm looking forward to having a waffle with you all on this Saturday afternoon. But let's start with the session results for anyone who's missed it and just tuning in and missed what happened today. So that is just your top 10. That's what we'll go through. Max Verstappen on pole position with a 1:26.720. 0.2 of a second, 2.5 tenths clear of Lando Norris in second place, who just for a moment, and I'm not kidding, I got out of my chair, I thought was on pole position for tomorrow's race. Oscar Piastri, fantastic from him as well in third place, 3 tenths off. Getting on for 4 tenths, to be fair, off the fastest time. Not far off his teammate at all either. Charles Leclerc 4th and Carlos Sainz 5th. Bit Noah's Ark, isn't it, this? George Russell in 6th and Lewis Hamilton 7th. Alex Albon 8th. Fernando Alonso 9th. And Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10. I should say Fernando Alonso only 9th. And I kind of feel like I want to say Alex Albon only 8th because for much of this weekend, I felt like he's going to be challenging a shock top 5 position. So, I mean, 8th place. If he'd have taken that at the start of the weekend, wouldn't he? And I think that was fantastic. So, well done to Williams. They look so good. Well done to McLaren as well. Very excited for the Grand Prix tomorrow, as I always am when we've got a mixed-up grid. But I'm excited when it's not a mixed-up grid. We will talk about Sergio Perez as well, who qualified down in 16th place. We will get to that one. But that is your top 10. I was going to put the grid up for tomorrow, but we have got some stuff in with the stewards at the moment. So, Nick De Vries, or specifically AlphaTauri, were given a €5,000 fine, I believe it was, for the unsafe release, which was absolutely an unsafe release on Oscar Piastri in qualifying. We've also got Zhou and Ocon at the stewards for impeding, which I believe was that incident between Ocon and Zhou at the at Maggots and Beckett's, which could have been quite a nasty one if that had gone another way. And Valtteri Bottas, he's going to the stewards, but this is probably a disqualification because there wasn't enough fuel in the car for them to be able to take the required 1 litre sample at the end of the session. After he'd stopped on track, he'd run out of fuel, if you like. And so they couldn't take the sample, not enough in there, which generally means disqualification, which could mean either back of the grid start or, I suspect, a pit lane start for tomorrow. So don't be surprised if in the morning Valtteri Bottas, there's a load of documents in the FIA page with lots of engine changes and gearbox changes and parts changed on the car because they might want to go for something tomorrow. So Bottas, I'll let you know if they come in officially, but I would suspect Bottas is going to get a penalty there. There's nothing official from what I can see at the moment. Oh, there's a decision on the impeding. There we go. That's what I was waiting for. Zhou Guanyu. No further action, the stewards have decided on that one, which am I surprised at that? Not really. No, I don't think so. So Zhou will not be getting a penalty. Neither will Ocon. Zhou was on an outlap during Q1 at the exit of turn 11, driving slowly and on the racing line, and thereby impeded Ocon, who was on a fast lap. However, in the hearing, Zhou explained that he had to go slow to avoid Hamilton in front of him and had to stay on the left side of the track because he had entered, as he entered the turn, he was passed by Bottas and could not have moved off the line without causing an unsafe situation. So the document says he did impede him, but they're not going to penalise him because it looks like mitigating circumstances there. So he had to get out of the way of other cars, and that meant that he had to be on the line to be out of their way. So no further action. Interesting. So he did impede Ocon, but because he had to jump out of the way of Hamilton and Bottas, if I'm reading that correctly, he had no other choice but to be in that position. So that's fair enough, but I'm surprised they didn't penalise. They tend to do that one. But yeah, Bottas, pretty confident, will be a penalty. But let's talk about the session as a whole. I mean, absolutely fan. I mean, Q1 was unbelievable, wasn't it? What a session Q1 was. So much going on in that session, including a red flag for Kevin Magnussen, who stopped apparently an electrical problem, possibly hydraulics, according to Ted. This is why I like doing these streams after Ted's been on, because he gives me a bit more information, which is always nice. So, yeah, a bit frustrating for Haas there, but Nico Hulkenberg 11th, not terrible for them in the end. But it was a damp start, really, is the best way to put it, but not too damp, because they all went out on slicks, and it seemed to be the right decision. The track looked like slicks, but it was Stowe, wasn't it, that seemed to be giving everyone all the problems, including Lewis Hamilton, who had a spin down there on his first flying lap, recovered well through the gravel, and then managed to get himself through to Q2, Q3, and qualify in P7 overall. Started to rain again about 12 minutes to go in the session, but again, not enough for any more intermediates, so it was all slick running. Bit of a bizarre moment in Q1. Max Verstappen, he is on pole, but it wasn't all without incident. He hit the pit wall coming out of the garage, which was weird, and damaged his front wing. So Ted Kravitz was saying in his notebook afterwards that he feels that's a Red Bull mechanic issue, that there should have been someone there to guide him out. So, bit of a weird one. Mildly amusing, I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie. It was mildly amusing at the time that he just straight into the pit wall. Looks a bit amateur hour, but it's such a tight turning, and usually you've got your mechanics there to guide you out. He said no grip, which is fair enough, but I think that's maybe what I tend to agree with Ted on that one, which you won't hear me say very often. But I do tend to agree with Ted on that one, which it was just quite funny. But they managed to repair it, no major issues, and he went on out there. It's quite weird, really, the whole session. I don't really have to sum it up, because it was chaos. It was brilliant. Some fantastic driving. And, these drivers, they're some of the best in the world. And a lot of them show it in the wet. And it's fantastic to watch. And I love it so much. And despite all the drama and all the twists and the turns through the 3 sessions, it's still Max Verstappen on pole pretty comfortably. And I think that really, I'll tell you what, actually, that really sums up F1 in 2023. Do you know what I mean? It kind of sums it up in that there's so much going on, but amongst all the chaos, there's still Max Verstappen and Red Bull right at the front. And that really is credit to them. So, well done. Is that 5th pole in a row for Max now as well? No, I wasn't saying amateur hour. I wasn't saying it was amateur hour. It just felt a little bit at the time when you're watching it. You're sort of like, that's a bit silly. But then when you sort of listen to the explanations from Ted and what's going on, it makes a lot of sense. And especially if he was struggling with grip coming out the garage as well, then there's an explanation. I wasn't calling Max an amateur or saying amateur hour. He's soon to be a triple world champion. He's definitely not an amateur. But yeah, no, that's kind of how I feel. Just everything goes on in Formula 1 at the moment, and no matter what happens, it's just a Red Bull at the front, which again, absolutely credit to them. So I did want to start on a positive, but I need to kind of address this one as well. Twitter is doing its Twitter things. If you're not on there, then you're so lucky. Although I've been spending most of my time on Threads, so I only got alerted to this by somebody else, so I went to have a look at it. Some questions about whether Max Verstappen overtook George Russell in Q1 under the yellow flag. He did not. I have been through and watched the replay. I watched Karun Chandhok's analysis. I've also had a look at some stuff online with some stills off the driver tracker. So it's a circuit map, if you've not seen it, that goes around with all the driver numbers on there. And it's from, I think it's from Multiviewer F1 on Twitter. Go and have a look at them. They've got the still there if you want to see it. I can't put it on stream because I didn't think to approach them to ask if I could. But essentially, in fact, I'll pull it up for me to have a look at while I'm explaining this, because it might just be easier that way. So, according to Karun Chandhok's analysis, and that's what it shows, the first panel Max Verstappen comes to is a white flag for a slow car. The second panel is blank, which to me backs up the fact that first one was a white flag, because if it was yellow, then the second one would be yellow as well. And the third panel was yellow, but Max Verstappen overtook George Russell before that panel. Now, the rule is not, as some people seem to think on Twitter, surprise, surprise, the rule isn't that you can't overtake when you see a yellow flag. The rule is that you cannot overtake between the light panel showing the yellow flag, or a physical yellow flag, and the green flag after the incident that is shown. So you can have a yellow flag at the end of the straight, as is the case here, but so long as you're passed before you get to that yellow flag, you're within the regulations. And the pictures that I've got up and I'm looking at now, and definitely go have a look on Twitter if you haven't, so Multiviewer F1, Max Verstappen is past Russell before they get to the light panel and before they get to the yellow flag zone, which starts just before the turn-in or just towards the end of that straight, stays yellow, becomes double yellow as you go past Valtteri Bottas' car, and then green flag on exit. So there is nothing there to suggest he is overtaken under yellow flag. That's not some massive, big FIA conspiracy. It's called the rules. It's called using your eyes. I know 99% of you guys will absolutely understand that and know that is just how it works sometimes. What we see on TV and what all the official documentation and screenshots and stuff like this track map I'm looking at, that all comes out afterwards, but it's the rules. It's the way it is. So there's no rules broken there. So it's kind of a completely pointless conversation. But I'm explaining it just for anybody who might think there is something going on there. There isn't, unless the stewards suddenly come out now and decide that he did. But every angle I've seen, the stuff I'm looking at now, the analysis from Karun Chandok, he doesn't overtake under yellow flags. So Daniel Philpotts at Silverstone, very jealous, mate. Hope you're having a good weekend. Yes, Valentine says, people think on Twitter. Doubt, absolutely. No comment. I'll say no more than that. But yeah, so that's something I wanted to address, kind of a negative, before we get into the good stuff about McLaren, just to clear that up for anybody who was concerned that maybe there was something going on there, but there was absolutely nothing. Wait and see if there's a decision on Valtteri Bottas. There is not. So let's move to the positive. McLaren. Annette says, oh God, following the rules. How dull. I know, right? Terrible. McLaren 2 and 3, Norris P2, Oscar Piastri P3. As I said towards the start of the stream, I was out of my seat as Norris crossed the line because I honestly thought, because Max had gone yellow in the middle sector, not personally. His lap time was yellow. He was fine. He hadn't gone yellow. His lap time was yellow in the middle sector, and I thought he's made a mistake or he's not got the time. And just for a second, as Norris went over the line, I thought, oh my God, I wish I was at Silverstone. Now, I am not, as I've said many times before, a massive super fan of any British driver. In fact, I'm not really a massive super fan of much things British, to be honest, generally. I don't even support the England national team, for goodness sake. But I was so desperate to be at Silverstone in that moment, just for those few seconds, because I could just imagine what the atmosphere... In fact, Dan Philpott might be able to tell us, and anybody else that's there, absolutely would have been insane. So I was so excited for that, and then Max Verstappen comes across the line, and as Lando Norris puts it, he ruins everything. He was only joking, of course, but yeah, that was such a moment and such a massive step forward for McLaren. It's a funny one, because Ted was saying in his notebook that from what McLaren was saying is that the Austria form they felt was a bit more track specific, and I kind of touched on this in the preview a little bit, that was it Norris was just really good in Austria? Was it the update? Was it that the car was just good in Austria? So they weren't expecting much in Silverstone, and practice certainly said that. However, they've come out and stuck it second and third on the grid, which is absolutely phenomenal. I was not expecting that. I think I predicted them to be head of the midfield, but they're best of the rest. They're the best of the rest behind Red Bull, which is just absolutely unbelievable. So congratulations to them. I believe, I don't know if it's Red Raven or it's Black Hawk. So one of you usually watches Ted's notebook, but I don't know if I caught Ted saying something along the lines of that Norris has all of the upgrades, so the 75% of the upgrades, and Piastri has most of the upgrades. I might have been wrong, but something along those lines. But the upgrades have definitely given McLaren a step forward. Now, I'm not going to get on the hype train too much and start saying that, like Sky were before I went live, that McLaren are back. It's fantastic, and I don't want to dump on it, but it's a little bit premature to be talking about McLaren being back because they had a really good weekend with one driver in Austria and then a fantastic qualifying at Silverstone. It's all about tomorrow, Hungary and Belgium, and then we can sort of look at it and say, actually, do you know what? Yeah, they are, or not quite, but they're definitely better than they were. What I would say, though, is that the fact that Piastri didn't have the upgrades last weekend, but did this weekend, and that's how close he is to Norris and where he is on the grid, that certainly gives a provisional thumbs up, let's say, to the update. So it looks very, very good for McLaren, but I like to try and, you know me, I like to try and play it down a little bit, just because I don't want to sit here and be like, McLaren are back, they're going to be champions next year, and then they're not, and I look a fool. But I mean, look a fool most of the time, so that's fine, I suppose. But yeah, look, I want to give Lando Norris a lot of credit, but I also want to give Oscar Piastri so much credit as well, because what was he? 3/10, nearly 4/10 off Max. He's what, a tenth and a half off his teammate. I mean, that is just fantastic for a rookie season. So well done to Oscar Piastri. I think I can understand a lot of the coverage is going to be on Lando being P2 and how close he was to pole, but I think Piastri needs a hell of a lot of credit for that as well, and a lot of applause. But I think the team overall, and Zach Brown went absolutely crackers off the pit wall. So Tacitus just saying that Ted was saying Piastri doesn't have all the upgrades, only some. Yeah, that's how I read it. That Norris has got because they're doing their upgrades. If you didn't know, 50% in Austria, 25% in at Silverstone this weekend, then 25% again in Hungary. And I believe, or as I understood it, Norris has the 75%, which is the 50 and the 25, and Piastri has the 50. I don't know if he has the Silverstone one as well. So correct me if I'm wrong in chat. I will correct that on the record in the stream. But that's how I understood it, but I might be wrong. So if you know that he actually has the same 75% as Norris, then let me know and I will throw that in there. Let's see what you're saying in chat about McLaren, because I'm loving the positivity. I know I had to start a little bit on negative, but I love the positivity. By the way, it's so bloody warm in this office. I'm not complaining about the heat. I'm not doing the British thing about it being, 25 degrees and that's baking when there are people out there sat in 40-degree heat absolutely loving it. But I've got 25 degrees plus the PC at my feet blowing hot air at me and no fan at the moment because it's too loud. I've got a really loud fan, which is a medical issue, which I'll get that addressed. Zach Brown violently high-fiving the whole garage was great, says Siggy. Yeah, he said he was a bit more delicate with his drivers this year, didn't he? I think didn't he damage Lando Norris the other year? I think so. There you go. Piastri has all the upgrades except the wing, so it's more 65%. Thank you very much, Lewis, for that one. So yeah, that is what Ted said. I knew he said something about the wing, so that'll be what that was then. So that's good to know. Thank you, Lewis, for that one. I'm just going to take a second and write that down. So all but the wings. What's the betting? I can't read that later for tomorrow. So thank you very much for that one. McLaren change was not quick, by the way. Their rear suspension architecture matches the Red Bull, and that took time. We are just seeing the results now. Thank you very much, Lyric. And Carrie says, can't wait for God Save the King to play with Hamilton, Russell, Norris podium tomorrow. That'll be, imagine the scenes. And Red Raven says, shout out to Zach Brown for the quote of the weekend, though. It's going good so far. It's getting sunny, so I think they should red flag for the sun. Yeah, absolutely awesome. And that says someone was cutting onions near me. If you're new to the channel, Annette is a big McLaren fan, so quite a moment. A bit of pride, I guess, seeing your team up there and a nice big bounce back. But yeah, really, really excited for McLaren tomorrow. I hope that, so looking ahead to tomorrow, I really hope they can continue that form. I hope this isn't just a one-lap thing, mixed conditions kind of situation, if you know what I mean. I hope this is something that they can carry on to what I believe is supposed to be a dry day tomorrow. I will double check, but the last I checked, which was this morning, was that I think there's lingering threats of rain, but it is largely expected to stay dry, a little bit cooler actually. So yeah, so hopefully that translates into race pace for them and they don't just plummet down through the field. But let's just enjoy today for them. Adam says race pace looks all right yesterday. Jensen Button said he didn't keep an eye on the McLaren race pace because they were so bad over one lap. So if their race pace was good and their one lap pace was bad and they just put it second and third, then watch out, Max Verstappen. No. I think Max is looking very, very good for the win tomorrow. Very early to be saying that, I know, but I mean, what can you say? But Sergio Perez is where we need to go now, I think, on this one. This won't be like a race reaction, by the way. I'm not going to go through the whole field. We're not going to go through it in order. I'm just going to talk, see where you send me in chat, and we'll go from there. So yeah, Sergio Perez, P16, out in Q1. So somehow worse than the last four qualifyings, which is slightly concerning. So his excuses or reasoning for it was that they expected the red flag for Magnussen to be shorter, and they weren't expected to be stuck at the end of the pit lane for quite so long. So he struggled to get the heat into the tyres, and that ultimately cost him his chance of getting through Q1. I did write the whole thing down, actually, what he said. So I'm not going to read the whole quote. But yeah, waited a long time at the end of the pit lane, expecting the red flag to be shorter. Couldn't get the heat into the tyres. And then the interesting part of the quote says, my problems with this car are more apparent in these conditions. So, not first hint, I think we could all kind of theorised that something wasn't quite right there, but the first time from the horse's mouth, if you like, that perhaps there's an issue there with him in that car, that he's not comfortable in the car. Yes, hindsight, 5 in a row now without making it into Q3. Maybe that's an obvious statement now looking at it, but something not right with the car. They did talk on Sky afterwards about how maybe development has made the car better for Verstappen rather than Perez, whereas at the start of the year it was a little bit more even. But to be honest, even if that's true, and we don't know that it is, Perez, if he's not performing and you're developing your car, who are you developing your car for? The driver who's not performing and delivering, or the driver who is performing and delivering? I think today was just a bad timing thing. I would put... Perez has to take some of the blame. Of course he does, because he didn't get his lap in. But I would also put some blame at the team's door as well for sitting at the end of the pit lane quite so long. It's okay saying we thought the red flag would be short, but Magnussen's stuck on the exit of Stowe. They've not even got a low loader there to get the car away. Why are you sending your driver down to sit at the end of the pit lane for what must have been 15 minutes? Getting on for? I just should have checked it, really. So it seemed like an odd one. You sort of either wait until race directions say we're going to be starting a session at this time, or you wait until the low loader's there and then send Perez down. I don't know. It's very, very weird. And they can see from there. It's only up at Stowe. You can see. So bit of a weird one from Red Bull there. And I think I was talking to somebody on Threads about it, and I think it was Rob, possibly on Threads, and it's his race form has bailed him out. So he's not made Q3 since Miami, where he started on pole. Monaco he finished 16th, but there you go. But he recovered to 4th in Spain, 6th in Canada, and the podium in Austria. So he has been recovering well on a Sunday, but it's all right recovering well on a Sunday, but it's a little bit too late when your teammate's already half a minute up the road. There's only so much you can do. So it's back to what I said the other week about people who were talking about Perez for a title challenge. It's just not going to happen, and it's certainly not going to happen if he can't qualify better than that, which is a little bit frustrating, because in Austria, in the sprint qualifying, the shootout, he did qualify in the front row. So he's still got the one lap pace somewhere. It's just not working for whatever reason. I'm really interested to see what he has to say in the coming days and weeks, because I'm sure we'll hear more in the gap between now and Hungary, or the gap after tomorrow in Hungary. So it's really, what are you saying? Because it's I'll tell you what, I'll throw at you. Let's poll you on this one, because I'm really not sure about this. There's all sorts of rumours flying around, as is often the case. I'm going to word it really weirdly, but it's because I can't quite do this when I'm live. So is Perez's seat under threat for 2024? That's not how you spell 2024, Sean. It's numbers, mate. Try it. Take that one out. There you go. It's not 29-24. There you go. 4 attempts to write 2024. How bad's that? Is Perez's seat under threat for 2024? Yes, no, or unsure we'll go with, I think, is the way to go. I'm unsure. I don't think it is. It's definitely under threat for 29-24, because I'm pretty sure he won't be racing in F1 then. So is Perez's seat under threat for 2024? Yes, no, unsure. If you want to take part in the poll, you can do so afterwards in the comments. If you're watching this as a VOD, let me know what you think down below. I don't think it is, because as long as he delivers the points on a Saturday, helps the team with the Constructors' Championship, which some would argue that Max seems to be able to do that all on his own at the moment, so maybe that's not great. But then actually no, because I'm going to go back to this again. I always go back to this. People said that about Bottas a lot. Oh, well, Hamilton has enough points to win the Constructors on his own. Yes and no. Yes, he does at first glance, but if you remove Bottas from those seasons where that happens from the equation, you bump everybody up a position, so the points gap comes down. So if you remove Perez from all those P2s, for example, or P4s, or P6s, or P3s, then you're bumping everybody else up a little bit. So actually, the gap's smaller in the Constructors. So it's not as, it's, when you look at just the numbers, if this isn't making any sense, I'm sorry, but if you look at just the numbers at the end of the season, you could say, well, this driver scored more points than this team. That's fine. But then you're ignoring the fact that if you remove the second driver from the equation, then other teams are closer. So I don't think he's under threat for 24, 25, maybe. It could even depend, actually. It could even depend what happens with Nick De Vries. Let's say, and Annette's in chat, so she's going to love this, right? and a lot of you will hate this, but let's pretend for a second they decide De Vries isn't doing it at AlphaTauri. Daniel Ricciardo's been great in the simulator, and he's fantastic in the tyre tests that he's doing between Silverstone and Hungary. Let's put him in the car alongside Tsunoda. And then Daniel Ricciardo absolutely smashes it in the second half of the season, delivering some phenomenal results. Great. Doing what Gasly was doing in AlphaTauri, picking up proper decent points, qualifying really well, destroying Tsunoda. Red Bull could have a decision to make at the end of the season between Perez and Ricciardo, but I think Perez will be in that car in 2024 unless his Sundays start to go the same way as his Saturdays, and then he's in trouble. I would say. So that's my pick. That's my point on it. If you disagree, that's fine. Obviously, always keep it respectful. We can all agree and disagree and debate and all of that. But I'm in a very good mood. When is his contract up? Says I think it's the end of 2024, isn't it? So I think he's in for next season officially with his contract. Yes, he is 2024, and then after that we'll see. But if I were Red Bull, unless his Sundays go the same way as his Saturdays, with the car being so dominant, he's probably going to be okay. I would keep him in for 24 and then assess whoever you're putting in at AlphaTauri next season for 2025. Keep your options open. There's also some big contracts coming to an end at the end of 2024 as well, so there's no need to be panicking to make a switch, because Perez, on his day, is a fantastic driver. It just doesn't seem to be coming around for him at the moment. His days just aren't coming enough at the moment. I mean, what was his results at the start of the season? Second, first, fifth, first, and second. And then it's 16th, 4th, 6th, and 3rd. I mean, that's really, really not good enough, is it? In a car that is so dominant, it's kind of unacceptable. But having said that, if it was unacceptable, would you keep somebody that's doing something unacceptably? You know, if you own a business and a member of your staff is doing stuff that's unacceptable, do you keep them? It's really going to be interesting. I would keep him for now. Maybe assess it at the end of the season, but I don't see them wanting to pay off the contract if they don't need to. He's the second driver. He's there. His teammate's Max Verstappen. He's always going to look, I don't want to say pale in comparison, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, your Bottas against your Hamiltons, your Barrichellos against your Schumachers. They're always going to pale in comparison to talent like that, aren't they? Whether they're good drivers or not is irrelevant. They're never going to look great against their teammates. It's what, I don't know, I'm conflicted on it. I'm really conflicted. You guys in chat, it's not as conflicted. 61% of you already think, yes, he is under threat for 24. No is 17%, and unsure is 21%. I'll leave that for a little bit longer. I might do another poll later for us to go through, but that's kind of where you're looking at the moment. So most of you saying, yes, it looks like he's under threat. I don't think he is, but let's see where we're at the summer break. How's that? I'll do a video over the summer break. We'll see how he goes. If he sticks it on pole in Hungary and Belgium and wins both those races, this whole conversation is completely pointless. But I enjoy a bit of hypothetical speculation. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people hate it, but there's nothing wrong with it. Perez is a known quantity for Red Bull, says Tacitus. That's a good point. Yeah, they know. He doesn't. I know they've had their disagreements. They did it after Monaco, didn't they? And that cropped up in Brazil, and they had a bit of a couple of moments in Austria last weekend, and they managed to sort that out. So they're not at loggerheads. If they're falling out every 5 minutes, like we've seen with other teammates, then maybe they might want to make a change. But he's a known quantity, and I think he gets on well enough with his teammate not to be worrying about a switch. It's when it properly boils over that I'd worry. And Ant says Iwasa for F1. How did Iwasa do today in F2? I missed that one. You'll have to let me know. Annette loves silly season. I love silly season. Nothing wrong with that. Imagine the season if we can get Vettel and Verstappen. Pete Vettel is still above Max, says Moray. Interesting. That's a debate I'm not going to have today. That's definitely a debate for another stream. We'll get someone and discuss that one day. Curious says AlphaTauri seats have one experienced and one talented rookie. Tsunoda is now experienced, so they won't kick him out. And De Vries is not talented enough to take a Red Bull seat, so why would they keep developing him? We'll talk about De Vries in a bit properly, because he's had a bit of a tricky day today. 4/10 off his teammate in Q1 and out in Q1 as well, and out qualified as well. So, and Cameron says Plo is crushing it in Indy, so he must be on some teams' radars. I feel like Red Bull are the only teams shopping for drivers currently. I said that in my video last Friday, actually, Cameron. I brought up Plo because they were kind of trying to get hold of Herta, weren't they? But they kind of stumbled at trying to get him a super license. Yes, he does. Plo has a super license, so they wouldn't have that obstacle. And if he's performing and they want to give somebody a go and maybe go with an IndyCar driver, then that's a great shout. But I feel like the Herta move was more about getting an American in the car because of the 3 American races rather than a driver from IndyCar. And Palou obviously isn't American. So I don't think IndyCar drivers get... Again, can you tell if people started watching it properly now? I don't feel like IndyCar drivers get enough credit when it comes to the FIA and Formula One and things like that. But that's an issue. If you talk to your Chris Medlands and that, or follow them on Twitter, they'll tell you every other day that's always been the case, or it has been for a very long time at least. And one more, Red Raven says, as I said, trying to predict what Red Bull AlphaTauri does with their drivers is always Russian roulette with a fully automatic gun. Feels like that, doesn't it, sometimes? Yeah, no, I like that. I like that analogy. Who else should we talk about then? We'll come back to Perez. We'll do some Q&A as well. In a bit, we'll kind of dedicate the first 45 minutes of this stream to what we saw and looking ahead to tomorrow. Ferrari 4th and 5th, Leclerc and Sainz. Sainz wasn't overly happy with having to swap positions with Leclerc, was a little bit concerned about his tyre warm-up and compromising his preparation lap. But as it turns out, what was the between them? Well, basically sod all. 127.136 for Leclerc, 127.148 for Sainz. So nothing between them in the end. So they're nice and evenly matched. Russell 6th and Hamilton in 7th place. Conflicting is the word I'll go with. Conflicting reports, if you like, from Russell and Hamilton in their interviews. Russell said on race pace they looked to be about 4th and 5th, whereas Hamilton says he doesn't really know where their race pace is. So 4th and 5th is where, yeah, you remove the McLarens from the equation, then yeah, that would put them up there, wouldn't it? So maybe that is that. So we'll see. Mercedes generally seem better on a race day, unless I'm forgetting something in qualifying, or they feel like they're quicker on race day. They weren't in Austria, of course. They had a real shocker with Hamilton, but we'll see where they are tomorrow. Alex Albon, fantastic. So good to see Williams performing. But like I said at the start, anybody a little bit disappointed in chat that Albon's, in air quotes, only 8th? Because a lot of people thought that he was going to be, or I certainly did after practice, and you know, all the experts and the pundits were saying they thought they'd be challenging a bit higher up, and Alex Albon was sort of saying, in fact, I think he said in his post-race press release, amazing weekend, but it's funny when you finish in Q3 with P8 and you're disappointed. So he was disappointed with P8. We have to be realistic, but it's been great so far. The session was going quite smooth, but as the track dried, our corner speeds picked up and track evolution came in. We started to get quite a bit of degradation through the lap, even front degradation. So we need to go away and understand that. But by the time I got to Q3, I was struggling a little bit with those combined factors. We've been really on top of it since the start of the weekend, and I got into rhythm very quickly and adapted well to the changes. So yeah, it kind of, Alex Albon puts it perfectly there. It seems really silly to be sat here going, anybody disappointed with that result for Williams when you look at where they were early in the weekend, but it's P8 and Q3 and ahead of an Aston Martin and an Alpine. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I think sometimes you can get an idea. I know I'm guilty of it. It's why I don't do a Friday practice report anymore. I get a little bit sucked in sometimes to a Friday and a Saturday morning. I think, oh, wow, fantastic, great stuff. We're going to see Williams on pole or whatever, and it just never goes that way. Come back to Albon in a minute. We have got a decision from the stewards on Valtteri Bottas. This is going to come as no surprise. He's been disqualified from the qualifying session. A 1 litre sample of fuel could not be provided. That's a slam dunk all day long. I'll read what they've said. The car wasn't able to provide the required fuel sample. There were no mitigating circumstances. The stewards have received a request from Alfa Romeo F1 team state to allow car 77 to start the race. The stewards therefore grant permission of car 77 to start the race. No word there on whether it will be pit lane or back of the grid. But if you're Alfa Romeo, you're probably going to start from the pit lane anyway and make some changes. But yeah, just to confirm that point to anybody that's new to Formula One, if you are disqualified from a session or you don't set a lap time within 107%, you have to go to the stewards and ask for permission to race. And as long as you've set decent lap times at other parts of the weekend and you've proved you're not a menace, then generally they let you race. If you're 25 seconds off the pace and you've shown no pace all weekend, then we sometimes see they don't let people go in. But the 107% rule isn't really a big thing in Formula One at the moment. We've got some quotes from Perez, which I'll go through in a moment as well. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with Bottas. He's out. Oh, of course it does. Yeah, Red Raven says it's pit lane, Sean. Not qualified always means pit lane start. Yes, it does. Of course it does. He's been, yeah. So we have to work on that assumption, don't we? Didn't qualify. Yeah, thank you, Red Raven. Good point. I need the rulebook open in front of me sometimes, but it's a bit long-winded if you've not read it. It's good fun. It's a great read. If you can't sleep, I suggest the F1 rulebook. It really does do that one. So I think that's all the decisions in. So Bottas disqualified from the session. So that's pit lane start tomorrow. No further action on Zhou versus Ocon, and AlphaTauri got a fine for the unsafe release of De Vries. That was everything, wasn't it, from the session? So there we are. So yeah, Alex Albon. A lot of you saying in chat, no, that's roughly where you expected them to be. So that's fair enough. Actually, Curious says, no, Albon was where I expected the top teams always sandbag. Fair enough. Yeah, not full pace from the top teams. So, eighth place is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to dump on it, but you get a little excited after qualifying sometimes, don't you, when you see Williams in there battling it out for second and third, and then qualifying comes around their eighth, and you go, oh, that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, not a bad result at all. Really happy for him. And I think there could be an element of track specificness to this, if that's a word I'm going to use, track specificness. But I think Williams have taken a big step forward. And I said this last weekend on Sunday, really impressed with what James Vowles is doing there already, when you consider that he came in at the start of the year, wasn't it? I think, yeah. And so this car isn't his first car. He's working on a car that was already being under development for a long time. So for him to come in and to be able to make these changes so quickly is actually really impressive. And I don't think he's getting enough credit for that, 100%. And if that's what he's doing now, I'm really excited to see what Williams have got next year with their car. Because that's his input so far. It's really solid. So well done to James Vowles and to Alex Albon today, and Logan Sargent, actually. James Vowles did say, by the way, Ted Kravitz made the point that he's improving where the team need him to, and he's strengthening his position in the team. So Logan Sargent, maybe some people will look at his results and his qualifying today and say, well, it's not amazing, is it, 14th when your teammate's 8th? But we're talking about a much more experienced driver in Alex Albon, who's had a few years in F1. In fact, it's a couple of years since he came back now. It's difficult to make that comparison, but actually Logan Sargent, listening to the people who are actually working with him, is moving in the right direction. And that's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to do. That's what rookies need to do. It's what Tsunoda did. People always talk about Tsunoda's first part of his debut season, where he had quite a few crashes, but you develop, you improve. And as long as you're taking the right steps forward, the team are going to be happy you're moving in the right direction. So I'm impressed with Sargent's improvement, and I hope that he can continue to do that. I'd like to have seen him in the top 10 today, get through to Q3, but I think Williams are feeling positive for points tomorrow as well, which is good. And see what Sargent's saying, actually. His first goal was to get into Q2, so he's done that one, so that's good stuff. Can't catch a break with mixed conditions at the moment. We knew it was going to be a lot closer coming into qualifying than we saw in practice. It's a shame I didn't have a new set of tyres at the end of Q2. There we go. As I think that probably cost us the chance of transferring to Q3. So he's saying didn't he go out on another fresh set in Q2 as well? So maybe that's cost him, Q1, sorry. So maybe that's cost him a little bit there in the end. But his goal was Q2. He got into Q2. He's 14th. Hopefully race pace tomorrow will be pretty solid for them, and they could pick up some points, because it's so nice to see Williams and McLaren having such good sessions. Not such a great session for Aston Martin. There's too many A's on this grid. 9th for Alonso and 12th for Stroll. No, with respect to Lance, no great surprise that he didn't make great strides in qualifying. There's some good qualifying sessions this year, out qualifying Alonso twice, but Saturday isn't really his bag, is it? Most of the time. Interesting stuff from Ted in his notebook, though. The car is not great in the slow speed corners. Particularly turn 7, which is Luffield. And the balance isn't great between high and low speed corners, which could hamper them in the race tomorrow. So Aston Martin, while McLaren and Williams have been the big surprises of the weekend in the good sense, Aston Martin have been a surprise to me in the bad sense. I honestly thought they'd be much, much better than this, and they really have struggled, which is a bit frustrating. Alonso says, challenging session in drying conditions, still a long race ahead tomorrow. Sunday pace is normally strong. Good point. We still achieved another Q3 result, but we need to keep understanding our car at different circuits. He says the weather tomorrow could be changeable. So that's a different forecast to what I've looked at. And Lance Stroll said the red forced us to run a third set of tyres in Q1, which meant we didn't have a new set for Q2. That's maybe who I'm thinking of rather than Sargent. And that put us on the back foot in comparison to others. So that's maybe why Stroll is as low as he is. But 9th and 12th, I think they'll get some good points from there, Aston Martin, if they keep it nice and clean. So, yes. But I'm not supposed to go through the field, so I don't know why I'm doing that. That's me falling back into my ways with race reactions. So, anything else? Is there anything else I want to talk about qualifying before I look ahead to tomorrow properly and make some maybe predictions? We'll do those together. I'll close that poll as well. Just have a look through the order. I've done the penalties. We've talked about the good and the bad. I don't think there's any ugly, really. Maybe we could say Verstappen hitting the wall and Hamilton's spin could go down as the ugly, and Magnussen pulling over and retiring from the session. Maybe we'll call it that. Maybe we'll do that next time. The good, the bad, and the ugly from the session. I might have a bit of time to think about that then. That might be quite funny if I cut with something for Hungary. If we carry on with these, Albon's crash helmet is very nice and clean. I do like it. I really, really like it at all. De Vries has been a major disappointment. I agree, says Anant. Yeah, I mean today, where was he? 19th, 4/10, 5/10 off Sonoda. Yeah. Changeable conditions. See, that's quite a good comparison there, actually, for me. Sonoda 17th, De Vries 19th, both out in Q1, half a second between them. His average for the season was about 2.5 tenths, but he seems to be struggling a little bit in there. It's not been great for De Vries, but as I said to somebody the other day, I never expected him to get more than one season anyway. So I'm not really surprised by the question marks over his future, but he's not really doing himself any favours either, is he? So yeah, let's spin on. Let's talk about tomorrow's race a little bit then. Please do drop a like, by the way, on the stream. That'd be massively appreciated. Saturday night streams don't usually do very well, so it's nice to see nearly 400 here. So I've got 93 likes. Please do drop a like. Do subscribe as well if you are new. I'll be live tomorrow night with Will again, so prepare for some laddie bants tomorrow night on the stream with Will shortly after the Grand Prix to talk about the race and driver of the day and upset people and all of that, like we tend to do. And there'll be some stuff out next week, and then of course we've got another double header before the summer break with Hungary and Spa. So weird having Spa before the summer break. That's going to be odd. Very, very odd. So yeah, please do drop a like and please do subscribe. Massively appreciated. I'll do Q&A as well throughout this stream. We'll do a big one for the last part of the stream as well. So anything you want to ask me, save it, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. But sort of looking ahead to tomorrow, race-wise, I touched on it earlier. I don't think... I can't see this going any way other than a Max Verstappen win unless there is some kind of really bad reliability problem for Verstappen or he makes a mistake, both of which seem unlikely. Really. You know, that's the way to word it. That's just where we are at the moment. And I mean, what a job they're doing and what a job he's doing. You know, Perez is making these mistakes, not getting out of Q1 today, Q2 another weekend, and Max Verstappen is just delivering week after week after week. He's not been outside the top two all season. He's won 5 on the bounce, 5 pole positions on the bounce as well now. It's hard to see how anyone stops him other than himself or the team. So what also doesn't help, if you're looking for a very close battle at the front, it's not only the fact the Red Bull is so astronomically quick, but also with respect to McLaren, they could become a little bit of a cork in the bottle. Ferrari, I mean, McLaren's race pace wasn't bad according to you guys in chat. Ferrari's race pace was good as well. So tomorrow, it could well be that we get a bit of battle in between McLaren and Ferrari and Mercedes, and that just gives Max the cushion he needs to just pull away. I'm hoping the McLaren race pace is as good as their qualifying, so P2 and P3, but I suspect Ferrari and Mercedes and Aston Martin will come very, very strong in the Grand Prix tomorrow. I don't want to talk them down too much, McLaren, but I think you'll see what I'm getting at. I don't believe we'll end with both McLarens on the podium. I hope we do, but I don't think we will. And that's going to give Verstappen a bit of space up top, a bit of breathing room up top, and that could just help him to that win even more. But He'll be in with a lap to go to stick on the soft to go for fastest lap again. That kind of sheer domination. We shall see. So I think Verstappen will take the win unless they trip over themselves or he makes a mistake. I am adjusting my predictions from Thursday, I suppose, and I'm probably going to go with Leclerc or Sainz second and the other one third, of a Ferrari 2-3, to be honest. And then maybe McLaren, and then get a car in the top 5, or maybe both in the top 5. That'd be impressive. Oh, actually, do you know what? Just for once, I'm going to believe, okay? Verstappen win. I know, that'll shock you all. Leclerc second, Norris third. Just for once, because Annette's here. Annette can't always make the streams because she's on other side at World. So just for you, Annette, I'm going to put McLaren on the podium tomorrow. Let's. Why not? Just for once. Doesn't always have to be, what's really going to happen. We can speculate on that. I'm going to go with McLaren on the podium, just one of them, but Ferrari taking the other step. You never know. But I do expect to see Aston Martin better tomorrow. I'd love to see Logan Sargent get a point or two on the board. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And of course, with Sergio Perez out of position, we could have a lot of fun. But this isn't an easy track to overtake on. I saw there's some people spoke to, who was it? I was going to name people. I don't mean, they name people. You don't know who they are. I spoke to some people the other day, and they were sort of saying, at least you can overtake at Silverstone. And I was like, well, you can, but it's not as easy as some people that I know in real life seem to think it is. It's actually quite a tricky track to overtake on. You've got that really lovely sequence around the loop and onto the Wellington Straight. Fantastic little sequence there, which often gives you some side-by-side action. And you sometimes see it through the final few corners, and that overtake from last year that got Crofty nearly having a heart attack, with the line I'm sure you've all heard a million times if you follow the Sky coverage. Great battling, but you see stuff in there, and Stow's a possibility, but so many fast corners. There's not many. Was it 4? I think I listened to Channel 4 coverage, and I think they said there's like 4. DC said there's 4 times on the brakes heavily on the track. So I don't think it's actually an easy track to overtake on. I just think it gives us great racing because it is such a great track. That's kind of how I see Silvers. I'm not dumping on the track either, but it's not an easy one to overtake on. But we do tend to see some pretty decent side-by-side stuff. F2 this morning and F3 this morning were both absolutely brilliant. So if we get anything half as good as those two tomorrow, we're in for an absolute treat. Mr. Bungle says it's the best track to follow in these regulations. Could well be. Davis says would love to see Oscar getting his maiden podium. That would be lovely. Yeah, a bit of Piastri on a podium for Piastri podium. That'd be fun. Last lap Lando and Piastri podium Piastri. Yeah, I like that. We'll go with that one. And Perez doesn't deserve a podium, says Brad. Here's the thing, Brad. Totally get your point based on today. However, if he goes from 16th to 2nd or 3rd tomorrow, yes, he's in the fastest car on the grid, but he will absolutely deserve that podium if he gets it, to go from 16th to, it wouldn't be 16th, it'd be 15th, wouldn't it? Because Bottas has been disqualified, but 15th through to the top 3 will be pretty impressive tomorrow. So, yeah, I get your point, but I think that anybody who goes from that far down and finishes top 3 would be deserving of that, but that's your next poll. You know what's coming. So, is Perez a seat under threat? We'll end that one for today. Yes, 63%. So, is Perez a seat under threat for 2024? Yes, 63%. No, 19%. 16% of you are unsure. The other one, then, it's a Perez stream. We're doing Perez polls. Perez, polling Perez. It's all the P's today. Piastri podium and polling Perez. Perez podium tomorrow. If I have a guest on, I can write proper questions, but I don't know where the hell I've just written that, but that is not. If it's just gone in the chat, I'm so sorry. Perez podium. I've probably just sent my mum Perez podium tomorrow. She'll be like, I don't know, Sean. I don't watch Formula One. What are you doing, you weirdo? I'm always sending weird messages to people that are supposed to be going to you lot in the chat. It happens more frequently than you realise. It's quite concerning, actually. It's I swear it's my age. It's coming for me, but yeah. Perez podium tomorrow, yes or no? Bearing in mind he's in the fastest car on the grid by a very solid margin. Thank you very much to Scott for your super chat. Thank you. It says hashtag tyre talk. Hell yes. Are these strengthened tyres and high pressures shaking up the grid a little bit? Asked Scott. Thank you very much for your super chat. If you'd like to pop a super chat in, feel free. No pressure as always. I always come to chat, as you know, and as you'll have seen throughout the stream, answering your questions, your comments. But super chats absolutely get read out as long as they follow the YouTube terms of service and all of that business. So thank you very much, Scott, and the support is always appreciated. Well, Pirelli weren't expecting anything to change. They weren't expecting it to be a difference in performance. But the rumour before the weekend and the reports were apparently one team was saying that the front tyres were stronger. And so it would help teams like, for example, Ferrari, who have been a little bit front limited this year. And I think Aston Martin were another team that were in that bracket. So that was what I was expecting to see, is more in race trim a change. So I mean, it could be that there's been a bit of a shake-up in tyres. It wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't it, Silverstone, where tyres have changed and things have changed a little bit. But I will... That's my thoughts as of today. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they affect front-limited cars tomorrow, and then we'll see how we feel tomorrow after the race and see what Pirelli say as well. But thank you very much for your super chat, mate. Really appreciate that one. Any questions for tomorrow's race? I would say if Perez gets a podium, he may save his seat, says Annette. Well, I don't think he's under pressure immediately, Checo. I don't expect a change in the summer break. I just don't. I'd be surprised. I don't think there needs to be at the moment. Christian Horner said it isn't under threat, but he said that about Pierre Gasly in 2019, says Stephen. Here's the thing, Stephen. If you're a long time viewer of the channel, you know exactly what's coming. I did a video, I think it was on a Tuesday, because Helmut Marko had come out and said that Pierre Gasly's seat, or Pierre Gasly, was safe for now. And then on the Thursday, and it's on the channel, on the Thursday, I was doing a breaking news video about how Gasly had been dropped. So I wouldn't always totally believe what any team principal says, but certainly not when it comes to drivers. I know Marko and Horner are two very different people in some ways, but yeah, I wouldn't always believe what's said about that one. So it's what I keep telling the story because I just think it's really funny. That Tuesday I was sat there telling you all that, well, Helmut Marko says his seat is completely safe, so I don't know what you're talking about. And then on Thursday I'm going, oh my God, you're all right. They've dropped him. They changed their mind. But yes, we'll do something. If you've got any questions about tomorrow's race, qualifying, F1 in general, throw it in the chat. These are supposed to be nice and waffly, so we end up where we end up. I just want a nice chilled Saturday evening stream with you all. And then tomorrow we'll be on the running through the order and trying to make sure we do things the best we can. I said I was going to stream more now. I enjoy it. A lot of you seem to enjoy it. So we'll definitely do more streams. F1 Manager 23 launches soon as well. So I might do... In fact, the fact it launches straight after Belgium, I might stream that over the summer, because I think that'd be a nice way to just hang out a few times a week of an evening. Maybe have a beer. Or a cup of tea, because I'm getting old. Nice cup of tea and in bed for 9. Oh, dear. Anyway, who do you support in F1, says Gabriel? I mean, still Michael Schumacher, but that doesn't really work, does it, anymore? That's my cop-out answer, usually. I've not got one, and this isn't me playing the whole, oh, I'm not going to commit because I don't want people to think I'm biased bollocks, because it's not that at all. There are multiple drivers I really, really like in Formula One. Max, Charles. This might surprise a few, actually. Especially given my stories about how much I hated him in 2005 and 2006 when he was beating Michael Schumacher. Really warmed to Fernando Alonso this season, which is quite surprising for me. And I do like Pierre Gasly as well. I'm a big fan of Sergio Perez, so that's kind of, if you're asking me to pick a few, but it's not like I don't have the fanboy complex. I had that with my Michael Schumacher support, and I'm 37, and honestly, I just can't be bothered with fanboying. It's just not worth it. It's not worth having my entire mood affected for the following week because the driver I support didn't do very well. So that's the answer to that one. But I could honestly say, I don't think there's any driver I truly dislike. I sound like I got a problem with Jarno Trulli now, don't I? Truly dislike. Can't stand him. No, I just don't think there is. So, that's kind of where I'm at, honestly. What's up with Mercedes? Says David. Was expecting a better grid. I didn't really see an explanation from. Let me go to their website and see if we can find anything from them officially before I kind of speculate a little bit on that one. But I didn't. Their interviews were quite interesting because, as I said earlier, George Russell was saying that he thought in race trim they would be around 4th, 5th, sort of in the end of the race. So they'd be 4th and 5th place. But Lewis Hamilton wasn't quite so sure on that one. But I don't know if there's an issue with it. There's nothing on the website, annoyingly. I'm going to do it. Oh, I'm going to log on to Twitter. Oh, look what you've made me do. You made me go back on Twitter. How could you? You've done it again. Let me go and have a look, because they sometimes post on there if there's a little bit of a concern or anything. But I don't know. Conditions, I don't think, really help. One thing they seem to struggle with quite a bit is their tyres, don't they? And getting up to temperature, and certain temperatures they work, sometimes they don't. So maybe that wasn't helping them. But they definitely made progress, because they weren't expecting to do very well. I think that was what George Russell said. Their numbers said that they were 17th and 18th in qualifying after practice, and they were 4th and 5th in the race. And the fact that if they finished 6th and 7th and they're expecting 17th and 18th, I don't know how much of that is true and how much of that is just the typical Mercedes. If you're new to F1 this season, then this will mean nothing to you. But if you've been watching for a while, you'll know exactly what I mean. The old playing down our chances thing that we used to get when they were dominating, like, oh, we really think we're going to struggle this weekend, and they're on pole by a second, and you're like, oh, shut up. Lewis and his tyres. My tyres are gone. Fastest lap. Damn you. Progress overnight, but still missing a few tenths that could have been made the difference that really mattered today. Let's see what we can do on Sunday when the points are scored. We'll need all your support tomorrow, team. That's from the Twitter admin folk. But nothing specific. I'm sure if there's anything that I'll come back to that if there is anything. Yeah. I'd be surprised if they thought they actually were 17th and 18th. I'd be very, very surprised. Do you have a soft spot for Ferrari then because of Schumacher? Says through. I probably butchered that and I'm sorry, but yeah. Yeah. But also because Ferrari have been an ever present in Formula One, haven't they? So they're just always there. So yeah, there'll always be a soft spot for Ferrari, but I'm also more than happy to call them clowns when they're being absolute clowns. But I can't say that I dislike Ferrari in any way. And like you say, sharing that era of dominance and all that success as a fan of Michael Schumacher will always be important to me. You know, if I go back and watch season reviews, 97, 8, 9, 2000, 2001, etc., I'm always still, even though I know the result, I'm still like, oh, come on, rooting for them, which is weird. We have got the provisional grid through for tomorrow, so I'll read this through to you quickly. I haven't got it on screen. Because I'm not sure how to do that from there. So I might try and do that for the next one if we do these on a Saturday. You'll have to let me know. Verstappen on pole. Shock horror. Then it's Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton 7th, Albon 8th, Alonso 9th, and Gasly rounds out the top 10. So the top 10 is completely unchanged. Hülkenberg 11th, Stroll 12th, Ocon 13th, Sargent 14th, Perez 15th, Tsunoda 16th. Then it's Zhou and De Vries, Magnussen and Bottas. Bottas is down on the grid as 20th place. And nowhere does it say anything about a pit lane start. It just says car 77 permitted to start. So, whilst acknowledging what Red Raven said about how disqualification is a pit lane start, the official line from the FIA is that Bottas starts 20th, which is still, could be a pit lane start. It's still last, isn't it? So, that's where we're at. He's 20th on the grid. So the only change then is Bottas drops from 15th, which means Perez moves up, Tsunoda, Zhou, De Vries and Magnussen. So it's as you were, except for those drivers who have moved up because of Bottas' penalty. So no great surprises there. That should be a pit lane spot. That's the one. We'll go with that one. Why are the numbers on top right so blurry, hard to read? Asks Delcano. Numbers? You've lost me. Let me know what you mean. I'll see if there's nothing blurry on the stream, is there? The preview I'm getting through is okay. Let me know if there are any problems with the stream. Please do. I feel like somebody asked it before, but not the right question. But how is Chainbear? Says Janus. Last time I spoke to him, he was well. I have to word this so carefully. I know people think like panicky people, but basically, he's okay. If you know what I mean by that, he's okay. It's nothing to worry about, and he's taking a good break from it all. So it was nice to hear from him last time I spoke to him. So that's it. I don't know whether he'll be back anytime soon or at all. That's something you have to ask him if he does come back. Well, then you'll know, won't you? Why would you ask? Hi, welcome back. Are you coming back? But you know what I mean. That's not anything I can comment on. But yeah, I a few of the bits I know, but I'm not gonna go into that. That's personal for him. But yeah, he's okay. Apparently the stream's fine, so I'm not sure what you meant by the blurry numbers. I don't know if you meant the screen or if you meant might be something else. But yeah, anyway, anything about the race? Let's talk about that a little bit. I don't mind doing the other stuff. Yeah, but it'd be good to talk about the race tomorrow. What about Benetton, says Dex? Yeah, I guess, but they're not really here anymore, are they? They're Alpine, but not Alpine. If that makes sense. So yeah, no, nothing in my tone. Don't worry, Dex. Sorry, I don't mean that's come across anything bad in my tone. So yes, I have got threads. It says Dell. Get on threads. Yes, I've got threads. Follow me over there. The F1 word. Mostly F1 chat over there, but I'm not going to keep it to F1 chat because if there's something I'm determined to do, which I'm going to work on over the summer as well, is I need to stop trying to be a brand because I'm not a brand. I'm a person. I'm a knob, but I'm a person, and I want to be a bit more personal now rather than trying to be too. I tried to take the channel in a direction I wasn't happy with, and we moved away from opinions and waffle and gossip and all of that, and tried to go somewhere I didn't want to for reasons that I might share with you one day. If this all crashes and burns, which, I mean, it's sort of doing anyway, but if it goes completely down the pan, then I might do my final big hurrah video where I might reveal some very interesting things about a few people that need to be called out. But yes, anyway. Will McLaren hold on to the podium? I just tease people. They're like, what? Beef and drama? I want it now. Yori, will McLaren hold on to the podium? My prediction earlier, because I want to just believe for a moment that it's possible, was Norris for P3 and maybe a Ferrari between him and Verstappen. I don't think Verstappen is going to be beaten tomorrow unless there is a big mistake by him or a reliability problem. So Verstappen, a Ferrari, I'll say Leclerc, and then I'm going to hope for a McLaren podium. Would be nice to see a Piastri podium, but I'll go with Norris. So there you go. If Max is DNF tomorrow, do you think we could... try it again. If Max DNF tomorrow, who do you think could be the most likely to win on sheer pace alone? Says CPB1. Oh, you need a new name. I can't do it. On pace, I'd probably say Ferrari. And actually, with respect to Max, Leclerc versus Sainz, given how close they were in qualifying, the fact things were a little bit tetchy between them, and how good Carlos Sainz has been this season, that could be absolutely epic for the win. We really, really could. So I think Ferrari on race pace would be my pick there, which, you know, would be nice to see. I quite like that one. That would be cool. I think Mercedes are generally better on race pace, but, you know, Aston Martin as well. We'll see what happens there. But I think Ferrari is where I go with that one. Would you say Russell has been rather underwhelming compared to the hype he used to have? Or is it more Merc, says Justin? It's a good question, actually, Justin. I kind of answered that on Sunday with somebody asked something very similar about has Russell kind of gone down in people's estimations this year? I don't actually think so, because I think that I wouldn't say underwhelming. I think the problem for Russell, and again, I said it on Sunday, so sorry to repeat it to anybody who heard it then, but I think the problem with Russell is that he had such a good year last year, and whatever the reason people want to throw around, he did beat Lewis Hamilton over the course of the season. So he got in that Mercedes and for one reason or another beat Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, in his first season. So I think anything that isn't equaling that or betters that is going to come across to people as worse, when actually I just think he had such a good season last year, And he's coming to this year and he's still doing well, but he's going to progress slowly. And I think Hamilton has got a bit more freedom and has stepped it up a little bit. And I think that's maybe making it look worse than it is. But I don't think Russell has underwhelmed me this year. I think Mercedes as a team have. I didn't expect them to be challenging Red Bull. I didn't expect them to be comfortably second in the standings. They are second, but not comfortably. But I was not underwhelming in the sense that if Stroll was performing better, they'd be well behind Aston Martin in points. And to have your customer team go from 7th in the standings and be up there challenging you and potentially beating you is a little bit underwhelming. So I don't think Russell has been. I just think he had an epic first season in that team. And so anything worse than that maybe brings him down in people's minds a little bit, if you know what I'm trying to get at there. That's a lot of waffle to say no, isn't it? But I'm curious to see how the Albon Perez head-to-head qualifying shakes out by the end of the year. The fact that they're 5-5 is mad. So are they really 5-5, RC Parker? Albon and Perez? Wow. I did not know that. That's interesting. Sorry, that's quite. I don't like going silent on stream because I realise dead air is not always great, but that surprised me. Wow, yeah. Give me a minute to process that. Sorry. Red Raven says he's keeping it with Hamilton. That should count for something. It's just that Mercedes is whelming at best. Silliest word in English language, by the way. Yeah. I said it about Esteban Ocon a couple of years ago in a mid-season review or an end-of-season thing where I stole the line from, I think it's 10 Things I Hate About You, where it's like you could be underwhelmed and overwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed? And that's kind of how I was with Ocon a couple of years ago. And that's, yeah, maybe that's where it is. Wow, 5-5. That's really caught me off guard. Thank you for that stat. That's getting written down. That does potentially say a lot about Perez. Actually, no, that's it. I had a stat for you. That's what I was going to do. I screenshotted it earlier from Philip Horton. So the average qualifying position across the first 5 Grand Prix, so the first 5, which is up to and including Miami. Yeah, the first 5 Grand Prix. Verstappen, 5.6 and Perez, 5.4. The average qualifying position across the last 5 Grand Prix, so Monaco to Silverstone, is Verstappen P1, Perez, 14.8. Wow. So Perez has gone from beating Verstappen on average in qualifying by 0.2 in the first 5 races to being 14.7 worse off in his last 5. That is quite the swing. So something, either Perez has lost something or he's not happy with that car, and it's something that's happened since possibly Miami. Red Raven, don't give me ideas. Yeah, the Monaco crash. Yeah, that happened. Which I suppose that does throw the average out quite a bit, doesn't it? 16th. We'll say that. Well, it doesn't, does it? Because he was 16th today and he didn't crash. So that doesn't really count for that. And he was well off in Spain and Canada as well. So that's quite a. Yeah, that's not good. Because I mean, Albon's an interesting one anyway. Could you make the argument that he's doing enough at Williams now for maybe Red Bull to take another look at him? I know he's not part of their program anymore, but there might be things somewhere deep in the contract that you know how in football, if you watch football, you'll know what I mean. But how a young player can leave to another team, transfer to another team, and in there's like a buyback clause. There might be something in his contract somewhere that says that Red Bull get first refusal if he leaves Williams. Maybe, I don't know, but I think he needs to keep doing it, Albon. He did really well last year. He's really, really impressed me again this year. So maybe there is an argument for Albon, AlphaTauri even, at some point. But if I'm honest, kind of the same with Pierre Gasly. I don't want him to go back there. I want him to carve out his own career now away from that. Keep doing what he's doing at Williams for another year or so. Be their number one, let them build the team around him, grow with Williams, improve with Williams, and then if seats open up, then maybe he can address that in a couple of years' time. Same with Gasly at Alpine. Get in there, do a good job, build his career, and then if a Red Bull seat opens up in 3 or 4 years, then maybe you look at it again. But they both got they both got hit quite hard by Red Bull, and in some ways rightly so, performance-wise, but it'd be nice to see them just sort of stay away from there for a while and show us what they can do elsewhere, because Gasly's getting better. Esteban Ocon was doing a great job, and I thought Gasly would do much better straight off the bat this season, but he's definitely improving, and he seems to be getting to grips with that car now quite nicely, and his teammates. So I'm quite enjoying watching Albon and Gasly carve out a career away from Red Bull. That's not to beat on Red Bull, because at the end of the day, they've got the best car on the grid, and if they come knocking, most drivers are going to say yes. But I'd like to see him stay there and just kind of grow. As Michael says, if I was Albon, I'd stay at Williams and grow with them. Absolutely. Especially with James Vowles there now, and the things that are changing, I think that'd be great. It really, really would. I'm going to go look for some specific questions race-wise. We're supposed to do a race look-ahead, quali wrap-up type thing. So I don't know if you've got a better name for these streams than race look-ahead, then please do let me know, because I could do with some suggestions. That's all I could come up with at short notice. Not the most creative with race reaction. We react to the race. Wow. Although I guess that's kind of what my channel is, isn't it? I don't clickbait things. It's just, this is what I'm doing. If you watch it, great. Thank you. If you don't, then that's a shame, but cool. Williams have CFD time. They do indeed, Nick. Helping them massively this year. Yes, it is a good idea for a video. It might be one for the summer. See how they go over the next two, see if they stay close. Is it going to rain tomorrow, asks Nick. So the forecast I saw, no. But Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso are saying there could be mixed conditions tomorrow. So we kind of had that in the session today, didn't we? We had one forecast saying no more rain. I think it was Norris. Verstappen was told light rain for most of the session, or that light rain was going to stay. Nearly choked. And somebody else was told rain on its way. I think it was Hulkenberg. So there you go. Post-Quali Waffle. Do you know what? I should probably... I need a Waffle stream. I need to call a stream Waffle, don't I? And then we'll just have a picture of stuff in the thumbnail. Yeah, that could be Post-Quali Waffle. That could do. Yeah, maybe. I might... yeah, we might go with that, actually. It's more fun. But yes, so anything else you'd like to talk about the race? What time are we at anyway? So I was going to try and keep it about 90 minutes or so. An hour and 45 tops. I don't want to go to 2.5 hours like we do with race reactions. But yeah, any questions about the race, qualifying, F1 in general, I'll answer. I'll try to avoid cheese and yogurts and things like that like we used to do. Will we see the first race win of Max at Silverstone? Because he just won a short race, says De Weberis. Max won the 70th anniversary Grand Prix at Silverstone, didn't he? He's won at Silverstone. He won the 70th anniversary, but he hasn't won a British Grand Prix, if that makes sense. He's never won a British Grand Prix, but he has won at Silverstone. He won the sprint and he won the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. So I think tomorrow he's probably going to add to that. I keep referring to him as soon to be triple world champion because I'm pretty confident that's done. Absolutely done. Especially if Perez is going to carry on with his qualifying form like this, because like I said at the start or earlier in the video, it's all right qualifying badly and then recovering that in a race, but if you, by the time you get to second place, if your teammate's half a minute up the road, it's too late. Travis says, what do you think about the FIA bringing back engine modes to make race day closer? Is that just a suggestion, Travis, or is that a thing that's happening? I assume that's just an idea. See, I had an issue with engine modes anyway. To be honest, it didn't bother me. I think if you've got if you've got a car like Red Bull at the moment, or like Mercedes when they brought in this engine mode ban, that's good enough to be out front and you can turn that down and look after your power unit, then good. You should be able to do that. If you want to push harder in a race, hammer time, for example, then you should also be able to do that. It's up to you. To me, it should be up to you how you want to run your power unit, but you're going to get through more if you keep pushing it too hard. And if you get the chance to look after your unit, then that's good. You're doing a good job. I don't think we needed to do it, but I'm sure there are very, very fair and valid reasons behind it, as with everything in the FIA. That's a tongue-in-cheek comment. They're a cost-reducing rule. No way to bring those back, says Freeze. there you go. It's all cost reducing, isn't it, in F1? But I'd have quite. I don't mind that. And I've read some interesting stuff today. I only briefly skimmed over it. I want to read it properly tonight. An article about motorsport, about how we might see the return of fuel burning as a way to get charging the batteries more efficiently in 2026, because apparently the power units in 26 will be 50% battery. The power will come from 50% of the battery. No, 50% of the power will come from the battery. So teams will use things like fuel burning to charge those batteries better. Was how I read that as I skimmed through it earlier. It was just for qualifying, so I wanted to watch quali really, which seems a little bit counterproductive. I love technology. I love the way Formula One continues to go with technology. I really, really do. However, I would also love to see, and I understand manufacturers wouldn't be all for it. I get it, but I would also love to see, like we saw with Vettel at Silverstone last year, a V10 run on synthetic and sustainable fuels. I'd be happy with. I'd like to see that, but I know that manufacturers are entering Formula One because of the technology with it and other things, and they're not going to go that route, unfortunately. But I'm not going to read the whole article, but let me see if I find a bit that I read properly. So with F1's 2026 rules opening up the door for a greater reliance on battery power, which is set to produce 50% of the entire engine performance, teams are searching for ways to help charge the batteries. One of the best ways that have emerged is for the engines to continue delivering torque to the crankshaft so that energy can be harvested by the MG UK even when it's not needed by the driver. This can be done by either by drivers remaining on full throttle under braking, changing down gears on the straights, or through engine maps. However it is achieved, the characteristics will result in fuel burn returning to F1, and that's on the motorsport.com website, an article by Jonathan Noble. So it's really interesting. Have a read of that if you get the chance. Motorsport.com. It's an article from Jonathan Noble. The headline, I just went and closed it. Let me find it for you. I'll tell you what, actually, what'll be easier. I don't know if you might need to sign in if you've used all your articles up for this month, because, we all know how the news like to put things behind a paywall now, because nobody's allowed to know the news anymore unless you pay for it or watch the BBC, which is never a very good idea. I can't find it now. I won't be able to find. That's going to annoy me now. There we go. I'm going to post the link in the chat. I don't often do links in the chat, but I'll post it in there for Red Raven and Co. Who might want to read that. It's well worth a read later. There you go. For anyone interested. But yeah, it just made me laugh a little bit that we're talking about all this sustainability and whatnot. And I'm sure there's a way they can do it sustainably, but they want to be carbon neutral by 2030. So what they're going to do is the teams are going to burn more fuel off because they want to get more power through the battery. So why not just use more fuel? And I know it's not as simple as that, but that's how I feel on that one. How did the poll go in the end then? So Perez podium tomorrow, question mark. 253 votes, 18% said yes, and 81% said no. So you're not confident on Perez for a podium tomorrow. I guess difficult track to overtake on. Feels quite close behind Verstappen, isn't it, after Verstappen? So you've got Norris, Piastri close, so maybe on race trim it'll be tricky. Some tough cars to get through to. Changeable conditions. Yeah, I can see the scepticism there, but I think surely top 5 for Perez tomorrow. Top 5, surely. I can't see how he doesn't do that. But I don't think... You might be right with your skepticism on that one, but wasn't last year the same? Perez went to the back of the grid after lap 1 and got a podium, says Inferno. It's a good question. Yes, he did, because he had the incident in the sprint, didn't he? Which put him to the back of the grid. Yes, he did. Was that last year? Or was that 2020? I can't remember what year it is now. That happened, but that might have been 2021 or 2020. Whichever year we did the first sprints. I'm going to try and find it now. I bet I can't find it. Someone will tell me before I get there. Yeah, 2022, yeah. Okay. So he could do then, especially from a little bit higher up on the grid. Yes, he did. Of course he did. Sorry, yeah, no, yeah, because I did it for the preview. Of course he did. Started in P4, dropped back through the field. Yeah, I think. I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to sit and read a race report now. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Other thing as well, tomorrow. There is a concern over a protest I don't imagine any Just Stop Oil protesters are watching this, because why would you? You know, I'm talking about Formula One. Anybody thinking of doing that, how can I word this? I don't want to get too political, but take a second, step back, and think about, you know, if you don't give a shit about your own safety, fine, whatever. But take a step back and think about the lives you're endangering if you do walk onto a track, a live race track, just for a second. Not just the lives, like, as in, you know, you could easily kill somebody. Bits flying all over the place if you're hit by an F1 car, could kill a driver, a marshal, a person in the crowd, but also the toll that could put on a driver or a marshal who has to witness that and has to live with that. So just for a second, put what you think is a noble cause behind you. And just take a second to breathe and go, actually, do I really want this driver to have to suffer this, or do I really want to put myself at risk? Do I really want to put other people at risk? Just for a second. I have no problem with protest, but I think wandering onto a live racetrack is about as dumb as you can get, to be honest. That's just, they got away with it last year because we had the red flag. Very lucky, because that could have gone very, very badly, very, very quickly. And that, yeah, exactly, Redmond. Anyone who walks onto a track, you go back to the guy at Singapore who suddenly decided to take a walk down the boulevard. You had that, he was an idiot. You had the guy at Hockenheim in 2000. He was an idiot. You had the guy on the Hangar Straight at Silverstone in 2000 and I'm going to say 3. I might be wrong. They're idiots. You know, you just you don't walk on a live. You wouldn't walk in. Well, they do, don't they? I was going to say you wouldn't walk into the middle of the road, but they do. They glue themselves to it. So, yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going to shut the fuck up because I'm going to say something in a minute. I'm going to be in trouble. Yeah, 2003. If you want to protest something you feel passionate about, absolutely do it. I support freedom of protest, but sometimes just think about what you're doing for yourself, for the people that could get hurt as a result, for the people who have to live with what happens as a result. I don't know if anyone's seen what happens when a person gets hit with an F1 car, but there are examples out there and it's not nice. So yes, Redmond says that Singapore one was weird. He said he thought it was part of the ticket. Really? Track access during the race. Best view. Yeah, lay in the middle of the track and get some photos. Do propose a way to protest safely that gets half as much attention as them even making it near a tyre barrier. Protest safely. Don't throw yourself in front of an F1 car. Don't walk onto a live racetrack. You can protest safely. There's lots of ways. Millions and millions of people protest safely all the time. You can protest safely in the street. You can walk in the middle of a road and protest safely. You just don't walk into oncoming traffic at 200 miles an hour. What was it? Belgium, it's not totally safe, but weren't the people that abseiled down a grandstand with a banner at Belgium? That's... I can't be arsed with this shit. It pisses me off so much. Protests are meant to be inconvenient. Yes, they are, but don't walk in front of a fucking Formula One car. I'm not having a go at you, I'm having a go at protesters. I totally understand that protests are supposed to disrupt things. They're supposed to cause inconvenience, because how else do you protest? What I'm saying is if you walk out in front of Max Verstappen tomorrow and he hits you and you're dead as a result and a marshal has to witness that and Max Verstappen has to live with that, you're a selfish little... Well, see you next Tuesday. You can be inconvenient when you protest. You can cause a scene. You can get your message across without putting your life and everybody else's lives at risk. It's just stupid. It's not... You're just making arse. And the funny thing is, it's not funny, actually. And I do get wound up with this. These protesters have got... Many of them, not just Stop Oil, many of them have fantastic reasons to protest. And I can get behind so many of them. Absolutely can. However... You're not going to get people on side if you're stopping people from getting to work to pay their bills that they're struggling to pay as it is. You're not going to get people on side in support if you are not letting ambulances get to hospital. You're not going to get people on side if Lewis Hamilton plows into you at 200 mile an hour tomorrow. You're not. All right, space, whatever. Yeah, everybody else's lives are at risk because of something that might or might not happen. I mean, look... I'd love to know the reasons they're doing it, and that's fantastic. That's up to them, but fine. Cool. If you are a Just Stop Oil protester, please do walk on the track tomorrow. Kill yourself and everybody around you, and there you go, because in 100 years, some people that are already dead might be dead as well. I can't get it across properly because I get really pissed off with that argument. It really annoys me. There's a personal reason. That's why I'm getting so upset. It's because there is a personal reason behind this that I'm not going to go into because it's, with respect, nobody else's business. But there are people out there who have had family members in ambulances who haven't got to hospital and have died in that ambulance because of protesters. So, yes, the cause is noble. Yes, we want to save the planet, whatever the reasons are. But when people's family are dying, fuck off with that argument. It's as simple as that. I'm sorry for the language, but it pisses me off. I totally understand. I'm not one of these people on social media who hate protesters and think they have no right to do it and that their argument is completely weak. It's not. That's not me. I support freedom of protest. I absolutely do, and I completely agree that something has to be done about, people last year, 40 degrees in the UK. Oh, it's just summer. It isn't just summer. I know the science is unequivocal, Space. It might surprise you. I'm not a fucking moron. I'm not one of these people who debates global warming. It's or climate change. You can see what's happening. Anybody with a brain can see what's happening. We're not stupid. But that doesn't mean you should put Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Alonso, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Ocon, Sargent, Bottas, Perez, Tsunoda, Zhou, De Vries, Magnussen, every marshal, every member of that crowd at risk to make your point. There's so many ways you can protest properly, peacefully, and inconvenience people without putting people's lives at risk. So that is where I stand. I'm going to say no more. If you... It is going off the rails, but it's because I get really, again, there's a personal reason behind this I'm not going to go into, but it really annoys me when that argument is put forward that, oh, well, we're all going to die in the future anyway because of climate change. Fine, that's fine, but that doesn't mean people should be dying in the back of ambulances or F1 drivers should be dying on track tomorrow because somebody wants to walk onto a live racetrack. That was my point. That was all my point was. Don't walk onto a live racetrack. Running onto a football pitch or, I'll admit, quite the funny one actually, coming to a slightly more comical one, jumping onto a snooker table and throwing orange powder around, right? Yeah. That's annoying for the people doing that sport and it inconveniences people, but it gets the message across, okay? But that's not dangerous. Jumping out, well, unless you slip on a snooker table, that could hurt. Those balls are heavy. You don't want them to slip in places. But that all got really weird. But my point is, that's one way of, running on a football field is not inherently dangerous unless a footballer really gets annoyed and punches you, and slip on a snooker table is going to hurt, but you're not putting your life at risk as such. But running onto a live racetrack is just stupid. It's not making any point. You're just putting people's lives at risk. So that is where I stand on that one. So how large is the viewership of snooker? I don't know, Del, but it happened in snooker. That's the point I'm making. Jumping on a snooker table and throwing orange powder around, which happened. Google it. It happened in the UK. It's quite comical. It is actually one of the funnier ones. Doing that is not dangerous compared to walking out in front of a McLaren, which is also orange. And Space. Can I? I'm going to ask you a question, Space, very quickly. I've got all Mark Goldbridge. What the fuck has happened? I'm going to ask you a question, Space. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Genuinely, me and you disagree a lot, but are you listening to what I'm saying? I'm not denying it. I'm not thick. I'm not denying it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't listen to them. I'm saying don't walk out in front of a Formula One car at 200 miles an hour. I don't think that's a massively controversial statement. If you want to put your life at risk, fine, but don't walk out in front of a Formula One car and put everybody else's lives at risk. I'm not debating. I'm not sat here like a moron debating climate change. I'm not sat here saying it's not happening. I'm not saying that you shouldn't protest. I'm saying think about it. That's kind of where I'm at. So, and I mean, Del makes a fair point. It won't cost anyone's lives. It'll be red flagged as soon as anyone's near the track. You hope. You can't know that for sure. But yeah, let's move on from this because I'm just getting annoyed, and like I say, I'm getting wound up and a little bit upset because it's a personal thing for me as well. But final point in it, you want to protest, bloody do it. Have a great time at it and make your point. drive change. It's a good thing, but just don't walk out in front of a Formula One car because it's just not worth. It's not worth it. I don't care what you protest or your causes. It's just not. So there you go. And that's what I wanted. That's saved me. Thank you, Alfa Romeo. I'm not going to keep making the same point over and over again because people are either not listening or have got their own agendas that they want to push. So I'm generally a level-headed guy, and I like to have these conversations, but sometimes people just completely miss the point. What I was looking for, Bottas. So Alessandro Aluni Bravi, who has a cracking name, by the way. We are undoubtedly... I don't understand what that even says. I think he's missed some words off his sentence there. So with Valtteri, we showed we were... Oh, I see what's happened. Sorry, hang on a second. The full page hasn't loaded, that's why. I thought Aluni Bravi had cracked. I thought something had gone wrong. No, it's not loading. Okay, so it's not loading it, but I wanted to see if they said anything about the penalty. I'll try on my phone and see what happens. See if it's there. There we go. Because I want to see what he says. If he's got anything on Bottas, if there's a reason, if it was just a miscalculation. Undoubtedly disappointed as we left more than on previous days, that we had the potential to do well. Valtteri, we showed we were comfortably into Q2, but a technical issue related to fuel forced him to stop and to pull out of qualifying. Unfortunately, the problem meant we weren't able to submit the required fuel sample to the scrutineers, which led to Valtteri being disqualified from the session. It's a pity as he had been doing a good job up to that point, or an excellent job up to that point. So they're saying a technical issue meant he couldn't provide enough fuel. Started to lose power on the final in-lap and then the engine stopped. We eventually figured out it was a technical issue with fuel in the car, and we are already working to address that and make sure it doesn't happen again. So a technical issue for... Valtteri Bottas, which caused a car to lose power, pull over, and then the fuel issue. So sounds like there's a reason behind it rather than just a miscalculation. But yeah, that's that. Nothing more to add on that one. All the decisions are in. So any questions that aren't related to protesting, so I had to go off on one again. But yeah, thank you, John T, for dealing with that in chat. I'm not me and Space and I, we disagree on a lot, and I have no issue with Space at all. We've had a laugh, we've fallen out. That's life. It's part of being grown up. You have conversations and debates. I have no issue whatsoever with having that conversation, but it winds me up when either people don't listen or pick out bits and twist what I'm saying, and that's when I get heated. But also when there are personal elements to things, it annoys me. So it's nothing against Space. Space will never be blocked. We've had many a falling out, Space, but I respect you, and I'd hope you respect me. Maybe you don't, but we'll see. If Max doesn't win tomorrow, who would be the favourite, says Justin. I kind of touched on this earlier, actually. I think Ferrari. Let me know if you completely disagree, but I think Ferrari. And we'll see where we go to. I mean, if he doesn't finish or doesn't win, it's unlikely it's not going to happen. It needs to be mechanical, doesn't it, or some kind of driver error. But I'm just trying to think of the last time Verstappen had a mechanical issue. To be honest, like a proper one. I know he has some issues in races where he didn't have the pace he wanted and things like that, but I'm just trying to think last time he had a mechanical DNF. I'm guessing would have been possibly early last season, you know? I'm just going to have a quick look through the Wikipedia page and see what we can find. So his last DNF at all, Jesus Christ, was Australia last year. So Max Verstappen hasn't faced a race-ending technical issue since Australia 22, the third race of the bloody season. So if you don't like Max Verstappen winning all the time and you're hanging on hoping for a mechanical issue, I guess my little bit of hope for you is that he's long overdue one. But also, clearly, this car's incredibly reliable. I mean, all the cars are reliable. We don't see what we used to see, do we, with retirements and things like that. So, that's I can't believe that. Sorry. I can't believe his last retirement was Australia 22. So his worst result was 7th in Silverstone. Yes, he had mechanical issue in Silverstone last year, didn't he? But in terms of race ending, Australia 22. Wow, that's impressive and surprising, weirdly. But anyway, yes. Any more questions? We'll leave it there, Space. But I agree. There's nothing wrong with conflicting opinions, mate. And if I got heated or offended you, I'm sure I didn't, but I apologise. But there you go. That's modern F1 for you. Cars are too reliable these days. Yeah. That's a good and bad thing. I also, it's a problem. I think the fact that the technology is so good that they are so reliable is impressive, but it does mean that you don't get unpredictable. I talk about Schumacher domination all the time because that's what I grew up on. That was my bread and butter. He was my hero, still is. But I was going to say, even when he was out front dominating, there was always that lingering threat of a power unit or an engine failure or something going wrong, wasn't there? Whereas now you don't feel that as much. So, yeah. The last race, Red Bull didn't dominate. He clashed with Lewis. Maybe that needs to happen again. Says fill in the blanks. Oh, I'm glad I'm off Twitter as much as possible. Had technical issues during Jeddah in qualify, says Davidus. He did, yep. But like I say, last race ending one was Australia, which is absolutely incredible. Jesus. That's kind of like the Mercedes days, wasn't it? They just never seem to have any mechanical issues. So please do leave a like on the stream, by the way. I suspect we're going to get a lot of dislikes after my rant. People that don't like bad language and don't like people expressing an opinion tend to get a bit annoyed with me. So a like would be massively appreciated to kind of counterbalance that a little bit. 301 of you still here, 163 likes. Let's get that counter a little bit. I'll take a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up for today. I need to put my fan on because I'm absolutely boiling sat here. So, yeah. What is the best corner at Silverstone, says Scott? My favourite is... I mean, the Maggots-Beckett's complex is sensational, isn't it? But potentially controversial, given some of the great corners. Luffield. Because I think it's kind of the perfect corner for off the Wellington Straight and is it Brooklands through there? I need to get the thing up, just double check what I'm saying here. But yeah, it just works because you can get a really nice run through there. Overtakes can happen inside and outside, which tends to be pretty impressive. So you come off the Wellington Straight and then into Brooklands, and then you kind of get a really nice flow through there. You can be side by side through Luffield, and then you've got all that run down to Copse, and I just really enjoy that little... I suppose actually more that sequence of corners, I guess. The loop onto the Wellington Straight, then Brooklands and Luffield and through to Copse, that kind of section of the whole track, I really enjoy. I mean, I love Maggots and Beckett's, but in terms of racing, that's the section I think is in my opinion, the most enjoyable part of the track, because Hangar Straight, any overtakes generally happen in a straight line, or it's not quite so much through Stowe anymore. We don't see as much as I feel like we used to. I might be misremembering, which is very possible. But that's that section. That's a bit of a cop out. If it's a cop out, I should say cop, shouldn't I? There you go. But yeah, no, that's that section there. I quite like that one. Nick says Copse, Maggots and Beckett's are iconic. Absolutely. Annette says, send me some heat, Sean. It's bloody freezing here. I'll tell you what, Annette, do you want to come live here for the summer? I'll come to you. Or I'll come and stay at yours, and then we'll swap back again later in the year. I'm afraid to say I'm a massive fan of winter and autumn. I think autumn's my favourite month of the year, followed by winter, then spring. I hate the summer, apart from F1, of course. I hate the summer. Looking backwards, might it have been better for Red Bull to sign Hulkenberg for 21 than Perez, or would he have struggled even more, says Davidus? I don't know if I want to say that. I kind of do. If I'm picking a driver out of Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, I'm picking Sergio Perez every day of the week. I like Hulkenberg. Again, like Perez, I'm a big defender of his on the channel, but if I'm picking one of them, I pick Perez. So even with hindsight, I think I would still take Perez over Hülkenberg. You know, Perez just had that fantastic end of the season where he'd won the race in, was it Sakir? Yeah, won the race from there. So I would go with, I'd go with Perez every day of the week, even with hindsight. So that doesn't change. It's a good question though. Let me know in chat. Hülkenberg, or if you go back with everything you know now to 2021, do you sign Perez or do you sign Hülkenberg? You've also, as Nick just said there, Checo also brings the Mexican hype with him. Also, there's the sponsors he brings as well. So I know Red Bull don't really need the money, but it's always nice to have the extra, isn't it? But I think Perez for me. There you go. I did see a question I was going to read. We'll finish on that one actually. Hamoshi Tube. I'll do that in a minute. But yeah, Dex says I'll look for Hülkenberg because Dex says Hülkenberg. Red Raven says he'd go for Hülkenberg. Calmer waters, maybe. Brad says Perez is good. Max is just once in a generation. And Redmond says Perez is a race winner. Hulk never proved he can deliver in F1. Interesting. And Mr. Bungle says, I think Hulk is a better driver in a top car, so maybe Hülkenberg, but Perez in the midfield is super good or a slower car. So Hamoshi wants to know podium predictions for tomorrow. So I've kind of already done it, but you can let me know yours in the chat as well. And then we're going to wrap the stream up. So my podium prediction for tomorrow, based on what we've seen in qualifying. So my official one, which will count towards my season scoring previews, which isn't very good, is Verstappen, Perez, and Leclerc. My one now is Verstappen, Leclerc. I'm going to dream. I'm going to imagine that. Do you know what? I was going to say Norris. No, sorry. I'm going to Piastri. I'm going to dream for one moment Piastri on the podium, just because it's just really nice for alliteration. Podium, Piastri, podium. So yeah, I'm not convinced we'll see McLaren on the podium, but I'm going to go bold for a change with that one and say Piastri for a shock podium. So there you go. Unlikely. I was going to end as well just with Steve says Sean, love the Yankees, ? As in baseball? No. So my baseball team, if you want to call them that, is actually the Red Sox, Boston Red Sox. My NBA team is Trailblazers. And I don't have an NFL team, so I've never watched NFL, so I can't pick one there. But there you go. So if you're talking Yankees and baseball, then no. I'm not great on the history, but I think I might be wrong. But Yankees and Red Sox not the best of friends, so maybe that's not a good thing to say to Steve in the chat if he's a Yankees fan. But there you go. That's the answer to that one. I was going to ask you very quickly. If you want me to keep doing these post-qualifying streams without the massive rant, it depends what topic Space throws at me, or I throw at Space as to whether we have a massive rant and argument. He knows I'm joking. But if you'd like me to do these in Hungary, Belgium, over the race weekends, just go live after quali, even if there isn't even a plan for it, and I just sit and talk nonsense for an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, then let me know in the comments down below and in the chat as well. That would be appreciated. In fact, leaving a like would really help with that as well, to just show me that you're interested in these. If not, then I won't, and I'll come up with something else or nothing. But it is nice to just sit on a Saturday and not have to worry about running through the order in a specific way and wrapping up in good time. So do let me know. John, me and you are going to fall out. Somebody asked me the other day, actually, Jonty, if we'd fallen out. So I don't know if you've had conversation with people and you've been calling me names again, but I think you're one of the few people I haven't fallen out with in my life. So there you go. So yeah, it's nice to just sit and waffle sometimes on a Saturday. So let me know if you'd like to carry these on after sessions. I am going to bring back midweek streams as well a bit more frequently, so I enjoy them as well, just to kind of catch up after a weekend. So we're doing a bit more of a community feel to the channel again. Let's bring that on back. It'd be good stuff. But the actual thing I was going to end on is Qualifier of the day. We'll call it for now. I need a better name than that, though. Because we've got driver of the day. So qualifier of the day kind of works, but I'll think of something. But let me know in the chat your qualifier of the day. I know pretty much what's going to feel like everybody is going to go with Lando Norris. And I completely get that. I completely understand it. But I'm actually going to say Piastri, just because I think that'll mix things up a little bit if everyone else says Norris. So Piastri and Albon an honourable mention as well for qualifier of the day. And of course, Sergio Perez was superb as well. So we have to give him a tongue-in-cheek nod. I'm joking. I'm surprised, actually. So Nick, Cowrie, John T, fill in the blanks and the net have all gone Piastri, which surprises me. And Red Raven as well. So actually, maybe we should have gone Norris then. But no, Piastri for me, because I think, yes, Norris did a great lap, and that McLaren is the whole team, their team of the day. But I think Piastri, rookie season, first time with those updates, I think he deserves a lot of credit. And to be that close as well to not only pole position, but to Lando was impressive. So I have to go with Piastri. And Sophia says Albon, I absolutely, yeah, James says as well. He's got to have a nod. Fantastic for him to be top 8. Brilliant stuff. So, and I know there'll be somebody, they'll know who they are in the comments, who will love the fact that I said I was going to keep these to 90 minutes, an hour and 45 at most, and we're about to hit an hour and 55. So that's for you, just for you. But we're going to wrap. Yori says that Norris there, so we'll leave it there. Dale says Norris could be Piastri, but just because he did better than expected compared to the teammate, we shouldn't rate him higher than the teammate who beat him. Okay, I mean, it's Piastri's first season and Norris is severalth. I can't remember what year he came into Formula One, but yeah, I take your point. So yeah, we'll leave it there. But Logan wasn't bad either. No, I agree, Justin. I absolutely agree. But we are going to leave it there. Round it off today. I need to go and get a drink and cool off. Thank you for your company this Saturday. They won't all be as grumpy as that at times, I promise. Who am I kidding? Of course they will. There'll be something. But I really appreciate your company. Good to have you on. And we'll see about these for Hungary and Belgium as well. Please do. 2019 was it Norris? So he's been in a little while. 4th season. 5th season. 4 years, 5th season. Ish. Yeah. I'll work it out. Please do leave a like before you go. That would be absolutely fantastic. And don't forget to subscribe as well. Live tomorrow night tomorrow after the race. So the race, whoa, what do we think? So 3 o'clock lights out in the UK. I tend to allow 2 hours for the race. That's 5. So probably like about 5:30ish. 6 o'clock at the latest tomorrow. And I'll be with Will to talk about the race and all of that business. But like I say, please do leave a like and subscribe. And you can follow me on Threads. Woohoo! The F1 word, Sean F1 word over there, but it is the F1 word. Instagram as well, I'll start using that, and Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter if you like. I've opened the account up again, but I don't really spend any time over there, so that's up to you. But follows on Threads, appreciate it, because it's a bit difficult to get much interaction over there at the minute, because we haven't got a follower-only timeline, which I'm sure they're on. But anyway, that is it. We're going to go. Thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 word, and until next time, goodbye.